Hi everyone, let me begin this video by introducing myself. I am Mushnaq Kothari. I'm a qualified fellow actuary. I have been professionally teaching actuarial science for the past 8.5 years and have overall actuarial experience of 8.5 years as well, along different verticals in actuarial. So that was a brief introduction regarding me. Before we get started with the solution discussion video, I just wanted to let you all know that the new batches for IFoA April 2025 session is starting off 6th of October, even for ones who are not appearing from II in the November term and are planning to start with their exams from II May 2025 session. The batches are starting from 6th of October itself. Do note that at Finatics, we hold one single batch itself for the entire term, be it for IAI and IFOA. Obviously, we have kept in mind that IA exams will be getting over in November, so we would be, scheduling our classes accordingly so that once who join us later, who is giving their IA exams in November, they can also continue with our batch itself. Do keep in mind we have limited intakes for our live batches, so it's important that if you're looking forward to getting full services from us in terms of live classes, doubt clearing, ample time from the faculty, the earlier you join, the better. We would be holding classes in live offline format in Calcutta, live online classes, as well as pre-recorded lectures. So from wherever you might be, any state in India or outside India, it doesn't matter. You would be getting access to all the classes along with proper doubt clearing support right from day one itself. So it's not that you would be left to spend, clear your doubts yourself and you would have to post them in a particular forum where the faculty might or might not, answer it. All the doubts here at Fanatics is taken by me and my colleague Gunjan itself. So we both of us are qualified fellow actuaries, credentiated as well. That is, we are allowed to use FIA credentials from IFoA. So whatever doubts you have, these would be resolved by us, not by any other junior faculty. We believe that doubt clearing is one of the most important aspects of classes, and that is something which should be left for the experts itself and not to others who might be able to help maybe in certain basic doubts, but not for the more complicated ones. So that's something regarding our classes, and I firmly believe I even others around who are similar minded along with my colleague that it is very important for students to start with the preparation very early on, so that they have buffer time later on. In case of any externalities or anything negative or anything uncontrollable, there's a buffer time so that their preparation is not hampered. So to motivate or to incentivize our students to start preparing early, maybe take a couple of days or a week's break after examinations have got over in the September term, but don't delay it further. I mean, if you have signed up with actuarial science, exams are going to be a part of life. If you enjoy it, you should anyway get started with it very soon so that you can enjoy more. If you don't enjoy it, the sooner you can get something off which you don't enjoy is better. So in whichever way you bring it, I'll always have reasons, to incentivize you all to join early on, because that just makes logical sense to me and should be the case which I feel most should be following. So as part of that, we would be offering early bird offers for students who are enrolling between 15th to 30th September. These would be on a first come, first served basis only, since we have a single batch and a limited intake. So all these offers are till the time we have seats available for the live batches. Beyond that, I mean, one can any day enroll for the video batches at any point of the year. But beyond a particular capacity, we would be enrolling more students for a batch, to ensure that all our students get sufficient time from the main faculties itself. So we would be multiple offers in terms of maybe flat reduction in fees of certain papers, combo fees, so on. So for those details, you can drop us a WhatsApp message and further discussion regarding that can be made. So that's what all from my end. Hope the solution discussion video is helpful to you all. So let's get started with the discussion of CM2 A paper. So first of all, overall, regarding the expectation of pass marks for CM2, I feel it it should be somewhere 58 plus minus 3 marks, given the difficulty of both paper A and paper B. This terms paper A specifically, I feel that it was a lot more doable in terms of the paper not being very lengthy, requiring a lot of mathematical typing. in last couple of years or so, the last 4 5 terms paper, what I feel is that the papers have been pretty lengthy. To complete it, even for well prepared students, they have found challenges. But this terms paper was not that lengthy. Obviously, there were certain questions where students would have struggled and they would have spent a lot of time. But for ones who knew it, like how I would suggest it, for ones who know how to solve all the questions, they will not face challenges in terms of paper being lengthy. Ones who are struggling with any question, we can end up spending 30 minutes, 40 minutes, even 1 hour for a 10 15 minute marks question. So that's a different thing. But overall, I found this paper to be slightly on, less linear. So getting started with the discussion, question number one, it was from VAR over here. So, I mean, the advantage of show that questions is you know what the final answer is, and then you can play around to get it. They had also given a hint which you could have used. There are other ways as well, to solve it and get the same result. So these are the solutions. Again, just in case, when you're referring to this video, make sure that you are referring to the comment section as well. In case you do observe any sort of calculation errors or any other error, do let us know through comment section. We'll definitely take a look into it. And in case of rectifications, we would be, sending these out through our comments section itself. And definitely, like this video in case you find the content useful, and do share it with your peers as well who might have sat for CM2 this term. This was the first question over here, and just standardizing in the first part, you get 95% VAR. In the second part, take the expectation, it's a conditional expectation, so I need to divide with the probability of R being less than minus VAR. Using actual tables, page 18, if I correctly recall, so it has the formula for the truncated expectation of a normal distribution, and this is what I've used over here. And then we get the final desired form. So this was one approach. Alternatively, you could have used hint as well given in the question and proceeded on those lines. The final answer would have been the same itself. Part 3, this is the 95% VAR and this is the 95% tail VAR. A common sense trick is that you would usually expect, I mean, not usually in the sense, you would expect the tail VAR to be more than the VAR, because tail VAR gives us the expected shortfall given the shortfall is being exceeded, and the shortfall is nothing but the VAR itself. So we would expect, I don't know, this value to be greater than this particular value. Um, so this was there. Part 4 was more of a bookwork regarding, what are the benefits and limitations of both VAR and tail VAR. Next question number 2. Now this question, again, a similar question like this has come previously. If I remember correctly, it was October 2016. Yes. So these are the workings for company A, getting it to be 30.55%, and then for company B, I'm getting it to be 14.08%. Part 2, I'm using the put call parity to get the value of the share, and therefore the equity, the value of debt, I can subtract this from 60 million. So this is for 60 million nominal. So therefore it would be 79.24 per $100 nominal. And then part 4, this is the change now because we have exactly 1 lakh shares and the increase is roughly 0.8 million. So per share price this would come out as 8.057, and as per change in value of debt it's coming out to be $0.32 per 100 nominal. Question 3 is rather a bookwork question, theoretical in nature, so I'm skipping that over here. Coming to next question 4, again a very very straightforward question, I would say. So this is STUDR. R is per annum. We are working in months, so make sure to divide it by 12. That's a very common mistake. I also made this mistake. I just took 0.06 for 1 month while solving it, and then I realized no, I have incorrectly taken that. So I'm getting Q as 0.42, and I'm getting C naught. That is the value of the call option as 1.2662. Part 3, we need to find the replicating portfolio. So 511, that is my way of saying at time 1, the holding of stock at the first node. So 1 first one represents, let's say, the time, second one represents the node. 512 is again the value at the second node at time 1, and we get the value over here for V11 and V12. And similarly, 501 is nothing but the stock holding which we are doing at this stage at time 0, and then there's a single node only. And then overall, if you check it, the value which you get is same. In the fourth decimal place, you might get a slightly different value. That is more to do with our rounding, as it should not be the case. Moving forward to the next question, question 5. Now, utility theory. I mean, it seems that IFoA are in love with that. They tend to give a lot of questions on utility theory. I don't remember in the last 3 years or so there has been any paper A where there not has been a question on utility theory. So this was also rather, I would say a straightforward question. Again, one thing was if you would know 0.54167, this is roughly 13 by 24. So the trick over here is something which you might have, most of you should have learned this in school, that, let's say x is equal to 0.54167. Now my assumption is this would be 66666 so on. And from there, you can simplify it to find out this in terms of fraction. This just makes our life easier, a bit more shorter when doing it. Even if you don't do it, doesn't make any difference. The final answer should remain the same itself. So this was 5, U dash, U dash, U double dash, ARA, RRA is there. Taking the wealth, the utility of it. Now, this is nothing but approximately 13 by 24. Had it been 0.5416666 so on, that is definitely 13 by 24 when expressed in fractions. So here I have assumed they would have, rounded off till a particular decimal place. Now, this is again just observation, and I am pretty, what to say, interested in these numbers. So I tend to, look into it, and I did spend some time, 2-3 minutes to, convert this into fraction. We could have solved it even without converting. So solving, I'm getting B as 60, C as minus zero point 0.1. Initially, I made a calculation error. I was getting both B and C as positive, and then I realized, no, that is not the case. It's a risk-averse investor. Your C should be negative, and then this helped me to, go back and check my solutions. I had missed out a minus over here. I had taken B equal to 600 C. So this is where, when I say, sense check your answers, try to, relate whatever things you have learned differently just to sense check whether your answers are correct or not. It helps you to really go back and make some adjustments if needed. And that is how, I was able to identify this pretty quickly. And then I'm getting W is less than 300 over here for it's valid. Next was question number 6, or was there a comments question? So yeah, part 5. Because it's ARA, if you see, it will be an increasing function of wealth if you differentiate. So basically, as our wealth increases, the investor will become more risk averse, absolute basis. So once the investor has 175, he or she would be now more risk averse to, make a profit of 25 when subject with a loss of 25. Therefore, the probability of gaining should be now a lot more higher. You can, even just back calculate it. You do not need to show your perform calculations, but for your own direction of answer, you can check it. And I was getting P as 0.55. Now, the person will only accept the gamble if P was greater than equal to 0.55. That's another way of, cross-checking your answers. Logically, you might think it should be more, but again, it's always good to, just check it if you have the availability of time. Question 6, a rather straightforward one. So these are the solutions. Part 1A, 1.6a. Part 2B, over here, it's coming out to be negative. Part 3, it's coming out to be as 0. And now in the part 4, in the part 3, in the commenting part, I mean, when row is 1, we can create a zero variance portfolio. But over here, the expected return is negative. So, I mean, although we are getting a minimum variance portfolio with zero variance, but our expected return is coming out to be negative, assuming EA and EB are positive. That's the expectation. And that should be the case as well. Question 7, part 1, 2, and 4 is more of, bookwork type questions, theoretical based questions. Part 3 is the one calculations. I'm discussing that quickly over here. Getting the answer as 8.03%. Now in part 4, if a further extension is provided and no additional premium income is received, this will just increase our chances of ruin because there could be more claims, which could come. It's infinite number of claims. So more is the time period, more the number of claims can come for a Poisson distribution. Next is question number 8 over here. So here I'm getting probability of default as 20%, 30% over here. Calculating the yields, I'm getting it as 15.54, 13.13. In the second one, it's coming out to be lower than the first. There's a higher chance of default in case of a 2-year zero coupon bond. That was on the commenting part. Next, question number 9. Again, you could say it's from utility theory itself. This is part 1 was bookwork. This is part 2. Part 3 I'm calculating. Now, one thing we'll see over here is when there's a loss of 50, the insurer is left with 100 minus 50, 50 only. Now, the minimum premium it needs to receive will have to be 40 because the utility function is only defined, as in the question stated, when W is greater than equal to 90. So let's say if it is anything less than that, the utility will be 0. So if there is a loss, and if I'm charging a premium, let's say, anything less than 40, my utility would be zero in the case the loss is there. And in case the loss is not there, my utility will be of, my wealth will be 100 plus, let's say, whatever is the premium. And that will not be more than my current wealth when I'm multiplying it by 0.75. So over here, what we will see is that, my P should be greater than equal to 40, because when P is less than equal to 40, this term will be zero. And if I try to solve this, I'll see that the value of P uh, won't match. So if I just try to solve it, this will be 100 by 0.75 square. Let me just do a quick uh, calculation over here. I've not performed it previously. It's coming 177. So P is coming 77.77 in case this is zero. So now again, the second case is I take P equal to 40, the borderline case, and there you'll see that this particular expression will be, equal to 1 itself, slightly more than 1. And now if you see the expected cost, it's 12.5. So therefore charging a premium of 40 will not make sense over here, because policyholder might not want to pay so much given the expected cost. I mean, you're paying premium which is almost more than 3x of the expected cost. The last question over here, question number 10, it was from Black Scholes, a rather very straightforward question, very short, very scoring. So these are the calculations over here. Part one, I'm getting $1360.24. Assuming it's in dollars, yeah, it's in dollars. Part two, these are the values I'm getting at 805.73. Part three, as the share price increases, or does the my risk-free rate of interest, the value of the call option increases, keeping all other factors constant. So this was there. Once again, in case you observe any sort of calculation errors or anything else, do let us know through comment section. Hope that you all found this video useful. Thanks everyone.